Elon Musk is totally going to buy MSNBC. At first, he called it the scum of the earth, and then he said, how much does it cost? Just look at what he did with Twitter. At first, everyone thought that was a joke. Everyone thought it was a silly idea. And then he put together $40 billion and bought it. Now people say that Twitter is worth a lot less and that he did a bad business deal. But you have to take a step back and ask yourself, is that really the case? A lot of people think that Elon Musk buying Twitter changed the course of the presidential election. When he bought Twitter, he changed the moderation, he changed the people who were in it. And now there's a lot of Trump supporters who spend their time on Twitter getting news there, and Trump won the election, perhaps because, or at least in part, of Elon's acquisition of Twitter. And now that Trump is president, we see there's different ways that Elon and Trump can work together. So when we evaluate his business decision in buying Twitter, we can't just look at the value of the company. If it started at 40 billion, now people say it's worth, I don't know, 20, 10, whatever you think it's worth. That's not the only thing to consider, because Elon Musk has so many other companies, especially Tesla. And upon Trump's getting elected, Tesla stock surged up. Right? And this is because we don't know if it's because maybe the Tesla robot or some new innovation from Tesla, but a lot of people speculate that the reason that Tesla stock has gone up so much since the election is that people think because Trump is now in charge and Trump and Elon are friends, there are different ways that these two will work together that could help Elon's other companies like Tesla and the rest, like the space one, the robot one, the mind one, etc. So when Elon is looking to buy MSNBC, it's a more complex calculation than just how much is it worth. He's asking what else could be the benefits from it. And right now feels like a unique time to buy MSNBC because MSNBC viewers are especially upset for two different things. The first one just came out, and it has to do with Kamala Harris and Reverend Al Sharpton, who has been on MSNBC for as long as I can remember, and he interviewed Harris on MSNBC. Also, apparently, and this is something that MSNBC said they did not know or realize, but apparently the Harris campaign paid Reverend Al's organization $500,000. And now, when you combine this with the Harris loss, everyone's looking into how did the campaign lose given that so much money was spent. And now people are trying to look into how the money was spent. And when you give $500,000 to the organization of the person interviewing you, it just starts to feel murky. Now, there could be times where maybe that's a good business strategy, but we've seen now the results of the election, which Harris conceded, things did not work out. And there were a lot of groups that received tons of money in political donations, and now people want to know, is their money going to the right place? People are upset with MSNBC. They continue to have Reverend Al on different shows like Joe and Mika, and this is the thing that is really upsetting people right now. These two hosts of Mika Brzezinski, Joe Scarborough, they really took off on MSNBC when they were having Trump as a guest. I think this goes back to 2015. And there was all this speculation that Joe Scarborough was actually going to be the vice presidential candidate of Donald Trump. This is back in 2015. Then, of course, Trump picked Mike Pence. It goes a different way. And then Joe and Mika become leaders of the resistance against Trump. And they go on to criticize him, to be the most forceful critics every morning, day after day. Apparently, Joe Biden loves this show. They say Joe Biden is the best president. Biden watches the show, and they go on and on about how terrible Trump is. Then Trump won, and what happened? They went to Mar-a-Lago to visit Trump and talk with him and try to reestablish connections. So this leaves viewers hurt and wondering, do Joe and Mika actually believe what they say? Or for them, is this purely a commercial interest where their goal is to get close to power and derive their power as broadcasters by their proximity to, in this case, the President of the United States? In other words, it seems like they liked Trump back in 2016, but then when he lost and Biden won, they started liking Biden in 2020. And now that Trump won again, now they're being chummy again with Trump. And they're trying to say, well, it's our journalistic duty to do this, and we have to know, what the president thinks. Better we get close with him. But also, there's so many people who talk about the idea of platforming people. You might remember when Trump went on the Jimmy Fallon show, and Jimmy Fallon tousled his hair, thus showing that he was not wearing a wig or a hairpiece, as many people suspected. Everyone was very upset with Jimmy Fallon for this. They said just by having Trump around and engaging him in a normal conversation, you are platforming him when they say the morally right thing to do when someone is bad is just to shut them down. But now the Democrats have to wonder, is that a really good strategy? Where they've tried to shut down different conversations, whether it's removing it from platforms or not doing interviews with certain people. But also we've seen that when people get shut down, instead of going away, they develop their own forms of communication and media. So we've had the rise of Twitter, of Trump's Truth Social, and of the podcast world led by Joe Rogan and led by Tucker Carlson. And now I think a lot of MSNBC viewers are recalibrating their strategy. But the real reason that I just think that I think that Elon is going to buy MSNBC is that when you look at the events of the past decade, it seems like more often than not, we hear something and we're like, well, that's crazy. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And when we hear that from the start, it seems like that's the thing that ends up happening more and more. The crazy thing ends up really coming to fruition. And so it seems like such a crazy idea right now that, Elon could buy MSNBC, but because the crazy stuff always happens, I think it's going to. I'm curious what you think, though. I do read all the comments, and I hope you will follow my page if you have not already. Matter of due diligence. In this video, I talked about a Tesla stock. I own Tesla stock like a lot of other people in this country.